actually lost lately, sir.
So what are you doing with that money?
Cover cropping for farmers,
Filling pig.
putting it into radish and rye.
I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Okay.
Welcome everyone. And for opening today, I would just like to say, Council, we are living in very exciting times. It seems like almost every week I'm going to either a ribbon cutting or a sod turning or some sort of grand opening. And this week we had a couple. We had on Friday we had the grand opening of the Rest Haven, beautiful state-of-the-art building, and it was such a pleasure to be there and represent the city and with in that capacity. And then on Sunday we had the grand opening of the Adult Teen Challenge Residence Building, and that was great. That's the one I want to talk about. Today we did have the sod turning for the Langville farm development, and that started with the Penco building that is being started at this point. And just exciting when you think of the investment that's coming to our community through this. It's just, it boggles your mind how like 700 residents, like that's how many doors they want to put in there with multifamily and single family dwelling. It's just, it's really incredible. And we've got this going on in all corners of our community. We're really, really growing, we're thriving, and it's exciting. But what I want to talk to you today about is the Adult Teen Challenge grand opening. Years ago, I got introduced to Adult Teen Challenge, not myself, but someone that I worked with, that I trained as a meat cutter, went through the program. And so the program's always meant a lot to me. As I saw my friend change, our hearts felt for the organization, and we donated food so that those in the program always had good protein to eat. But for this term of council, when I became mayor, one of the first appointments I had was with Merle Plett, and she came to see me, and her son Bryce had gone through the program and was successful, and everything was working well, but she really had a heart for Steinbach and those that were struggling with addictions in Steinbach, and she just said we need to have a Adult Teen Challenge chapter in Steinbach. And I didn't know what that looked like, and I didn't know what supporting that was going to look like, but I got behind it because of my past with Adult Teen Challenge. And I remember in the office here at City Hall, we didn't know where to start, so we prayed, and we prayed for the office and for God's will. And in September, we had a grand opening for their mini thrift store and their head office for Steinbach, and then they were officially in Steinbach, and then in October they were known that the Southland Church was going to donate their Four Winds housing to them, and that would become their residence. And they started that up in January. They started moving men into there and started working through the program. And this weekend we had the grand opening, and it was really nice to be there. And they came to me for the food ideas, because you always have to have a meal when you have a grand opening like that. So we thought the best thing was to cook a pig, you know. So got the roaster out there. We started the pig at 8:30 in the evening on Saturday, and we cooked it through the night. And so by the time it came to carving, I was nice and tired. But we started carving, and one of the gentlemen there, I won't say his name, but one of the gentlemen, he'd gone through the Adult Teen Challenge program, and he is now working for Teen Challenge. And so as we're carving up this pig and putting it in trays and putting it in the oven, he's telling me his story. And I was amazed at his journey and how he got to where he is today. You know, as a young teenager, I guess 18, 19, he was an adult already. He was in jail for 22 years. And when he got out, he realized he had no social skills, but he tried to make it anyways. And he kept, you know, he said, I tried cigarettes and that turned to alcohol, and alcohol led to marijuana, and so and so and so and so, he said. And he said, and then I realized I had a real addiction problem. And he said, I tried getting out of it myself and would go for a few months, but always relapse. And then finally he made a decision for God, and he got into Adult Teen Challenge, and went through the program, and at the end they hired him, and he said, now I tell my story every chance I get. And I told him it's a great story, and I said, thank you for sharing it with me. And one thing I've realized through my time on council with Councillor Jake Siemens is stories are important, and they need to be told. We all have one, and they need to be told. And I was so thankful that I could be part of that, and I could meet this individual, and I could see firsthand how Teen Challenge works and how the program works. And I do believe it'll be a great thing for our city. And as a person that occasionally prays for the healing of our city, I do believe healing can start. It's not going to just start for the people, it will, that are in the program, but also the families that are in the program. And council, one thing I've realized is healthy families makes a healthy city. So that's where I think the city will benefit greatly from this program coming to our community. Thank you. Council, we have the agenda in front of us. I'd like for a motion to adopt. The only thing I'd like to do is under other business, I'd like to add a letter from a Cottonwood resident. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We have the minutes of May 3rd, 2022, regular council meeting. Council, we've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Swykstra. Any comments? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council, is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none. We're missing one councillor. Councillor Susan Penner is feeling ill today. I'm looking for a motion to excuse. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, council, we're just a little past 7:35, so we will now close the council meeting, open the public hearing, and we'll be looking at Variance V-2022-09. This is referring to 25 Market Boulevard. Starts on page 3 of our agenda. Mr. Warkening, could you please introduce this file?
Members of Council, variance application file V-2022-09 has been submitted by the owner of the property, being 100-27732 Manitoba Inc., and also the applicant being Lowen Henderson Banman Legault LLP. Purpose of the variance application is to allow a drive-through to locate within a portion of the front yard setback of a property in the CMX commercial mixed-use zone. Whereas the city's zoning bylaw does not permit drive-throughs to locate in the required front yard setback. The applicant is proposing to construct a restaurant on the site with a drive-through component. Notices as required under the Planning Act have been issued. There is no written correspondence on file. With respect to the application, the overall site is planned as a mixed-use development with a secondary plan approved for the site. As far as background, council has set previous precedent with 2 recent variance approvals for properties located along PTH 12 North to locate with a drive-through in the required front yard setback. Therefore, recommendation from administration is that council approve the application.
Thank you, Mr. Warkening. Is the applicant here today? And do you wish to speak? Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Sure.
Just state your name and address, just for the record.
Keith Unger, 122 Granite Park Boulevard.
Thank you.
And yeah, the drawing there shows a double lane, I guess, queuing section for ordering at the west of the property. We worked with the tenant to develop the site plan, and the patio faces the highway, and I thought that was very welcoming for Steinbach, just to have the building facing outwards. So really, there is no other way to exit a drive-through with a site plan like this. The queuing is happening away from the highway, so it should be attractive. And yeah, you'll see vehicles exiting towards the highway to get back to Market Boulevard.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Is there anyone here with questions, comments, or objections to this file? Okay, we see none. I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone here with comments, questions, or objections to this file? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, open the council meeting. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Seaman?
Motion to approve?
Second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor Seaman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As indicated by administration, there's precedence in this case that restaurants have been awarded this before. What is different, it's an MX, CMX zoning, which is commercial mixed use, and that requires a variance. But we also have in this area in the Millbrook Market, it is a new area, and it's a new type of plan for the city of Steinbach, and the ownership or the developer has come to us and is recommending it as well. I think they've done a good job of planning that area, and we've been very much in favor of it, and I think it looks really good. And I think so this is another piece to it, and it's a drive-through on a restaurant facility, and it is what has been done in other areas as well. So I think with the explanation we had, I think it is a good fit for that area.
Thank you, Councillor Simmons. Anything further, Councillor Hebert?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an interesting subdivision going into Steinbach, and it seems a subdivision that the people in this community have been very excited about seeing because of its multi-uses, as we see here now for this restaurant variance. It's a new subdivision being developed, and it's going to be of interest how the market will respond to this type of thing. And what, will the market like a driver like that? So in order for council now to see what the people in the area think, obviously we need a motion to for first reading, which has been made by Councillor Siemens, and so it'll be interesting to see how people respond. But from my point of view, it's exciting to see it develop. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything further of council?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just driving along the number 12 highway the other day, and I took note of all the drive-throughs. Steinbach's drive-through restaurants are extremely busy, so we welcome another one, and hopefully this one will be as successful as the rest.
Councillor Schweitzer, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to make clear that because this is a variation request as opposed to a rezoning, this is a final decision we're making right now. So this is the public hearing at
My apologies.
at this point. So nope, just making sure that we don't have any confusion on that.
Thank you. Anything further? Anything in closing?
No, sir.
Council, I think on this variation, I do believe that the developer and the restaurant owner have looked at all the ways, and I think they've made a very, very, a good way of making this work. They've taken it so that they've had it set up so it's not visible from the highway. I think this is that's very, very smart and commendable, and I think I will support this. Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay, council, we'll move to number 8, reports and recommendations of city manager. This is the R.C.M.P, the Acknowledgement of Consultation. This is for 2022 and 2023. Mr. Workening, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of council, the Acknowledgement of Consultation document has been submitted by R.C.M.P Staff Sergeant Harold Laniga for council's consideration. That's found on page 14 of your agenda package. This is an annual review that the Staff Sergeant submits or requests council to consider so that the city is able to have at least an annual opportunity to review its policing priorities that they would like to see undertaken within Steinbach. There's an additional piece of information that was added earlier today, which is a background report that gives a little more detail as to what those 4 particular priority items mean. And there is also a supplementary letter for council's consideration in the package. Recommendation is council consider, and if council is agreeable to the proposed policing priorities, which are the same ones that were set last year, then council could proceed to adopt by resolution.
Okay. Council, just to reiterate, we'll go over the 4 priorities that are set. The communication, visibility of police, crime reduction, that is most targeted to organized crime. Crime reduction, this is with the property crimes, B&Es, vandalism, that kind of stuff. And then crime reduction on traffic. Okay, so those are the 4 priorities we're voting on today. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion that we approve these as our 4 priorities for the upcoming year regarding policing.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Siemens. Go ahead, Councillor Swagstra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a council, in consultation with our staff sergeant and with our administration, we always determine our priority areas that we want police to focus on. And for the last few years, we've had the same priority areas because they are areas that we have deemed to be important. And I believe that it makes sense for us to continue focusing on these areas. Obviously, visibility of police is important when you have police officers visible in the community. That is it builds relationships with people of the community. It also acts as a deterrent to crime. Part of that visibility involves, for example, having our detachment officers provide DARE training, which is drug resistance training to youths in grades 6 and 8, and so that obviously that training is important that continues on. We have another priority of dealing with organized crime, and as part of that, we have our GIS unit, General Investigative Section, looking at sort of some of the larger organized crime issues, for example, the drug busts and such. And so we have officers that are dedicated on a full-time basis to addressing those issues. A third priority is dealing with property crimes, things such as break and enter. Obviously, this continues to be an area that we want addressed. As the staff sergeant notes in his report, the total number of break and enters have declined over the last couple of years, although that's almost certainly related to COVID restrictions and people being home more often. Now that those restrictions have been lifted and people are out and about, we need to make sure that our police continue to be proactive in this area. And of course, our 4th priority is traffic. And in addition to having our regular officers on traffic patrol and whenever there's opportunity to do so, we've recently added an extra officer to bring the total number up to 18, and that officer just started in the last week on a full-time basis dealing with traffic issues in our city, and we're pleased that there's already results that we're seeing. We're already seeing people having vehicles impounded for street racing. We want to see more vehicles impounded. We have no tolerance for that sort of thing in our city, and so we're glad that we have the extra resources in place for our police to be able to address that problem. I will just add as well that in regards to the letter from Constable R.C.M.P that's in our package, this is specifically in regards to an issue that the R.C.M.P is noticing, and that's in regards to cannabis being grown in homes. Obviously, people are able to obtain medical licenses through Health Canada, and that is obviously, outside the city's jurisdiction. But the letter is raising the question of, are there regulations that the city can put in place to put some parameters around this? So I would suggest that we refer that to our administration to look at our zoning bylaw to make some recommendations. It's also something we can discuss at our upcoming R.C.M.P advisory meeting as well with our staff sergeant. So I think we have some good priorities here. These are areas that we should continue to focus on, and so I hope that as council we approve these.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Simmons?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There isn't a whole lot to add. That was a very good report, Councillor Swagstra. I have appreciated the R.C.M.P in our community. They have done much, especially since the GIS unit that Councillor Swagstra talked about was put in place approximately 6 years ago, I believe. And we have added, that started with one officer, now we have 2 there in that unit, and now we also have the traffic control officer. I think we've done very well working together with the R.C.M.P and coming up with different tactics that we can have to make our community a safer place. So I agree with these objectives and priorities, and I also appreciate how this report outlines the objectives and what's being done and what the current status is on each of those units. So I think this is a great report that we have in front of us, and it does give us a lot of information as to what is happening.
Thank you. I just want to take care of one of the requests by Councillor Swagstra, and that is, Council, how do you feel about bringing the request about the cannabis bylaw, giving it to administration and ask them for a report at a later date? Do we have consensus on that? Okay. So, Mr. Workney, you'll be okay with that? You'll set that up and take this letter and look at it in contents of our bylaw and give us a recommendation on whether or what kind of restrictions we can put in. Thank you. Okay, anything further of council? Yes, Councillor Hebert.
I too would like to commend the staff sergeant for this comprehensive report that he submitted to us. It's a lot of detail, a lot of information, but really well set up, like easy to read, and so my hat goes off to Staff Sergeant Lanica for that. The objectives, priorities, and goals, again, as in the past, are the same. They meet our needs. The only one, and I've mentioned it before, that isn't measurable is the visibility one. But I think it can be measured from a point of view, from public feedback, that they actually do see the police in the area. So I'm very happy with that. And of course, the traffic constable, as Councillor Swagstra said, is here now, and it's been a priority of mine for 15 years now. So happy to see that, and I commend the R.C.M.P for the work that they're doing in our community.
Thank you. Anything further? Anything in closing? Well, Council, we do this every year, and I do also agree. I think these 4 priorities are sufficient. I think they serve us well. I just want to speak to the new traffic officer. Being on Main Street every day, I definitely notice much more police presence. I am seeing the traffic officer more often, and the traffic officer is doing their job. They're giving out many tickets. We don't want to talk about it too early much, but I know that it's working. I do believe the other night we were having a staff meeting and we didn't have to deal with revving engines. So I know it's working. It's already working. So I wish them more continued success. Clean up the racing and the noise pollution that's going on in and around our Main Street, and that our Main Street and our community becomes just a better place to be in the evening. So that we're very excited about that, and I know it's working. So call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Council will go to 9A, Administration, Accounts Payable in the back of the book. We've all had a chance to review. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Penner. Any
No comments, it's pretty straightforward.
Anything further? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We have the 9B building permits for April 2022. Starts on page 16, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Penner, second by Councillor Swankster. Any comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we can see, as the weather starts to turn, although it didn't turn that great in April in hindsight, people are wanting to get outside, and we had a lot of decks that were being put up and a few new houses. So good to see another 2.5 million added to the roll for the year.
Thank you. Anything further?
Nope.
Anything further of council? Anything?
Nothing further.
Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Council, we have 9C, we have business licenses on page 17, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Any comments?
No, sir.
Further? Okay, we'll call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. 9D, we've got excavator licenses. Looking for a motion to
On
approve.
behalf of Susan, I will make the motion.
Okay, looking for a seconder.
Behind Jake on this.
Okay. Council, okay, motion made by Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Swaystra. Any comments?
Call for the question.
Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We got 9E, bylaw 2207-2022. This is the Realty and Education Tax Levy. We're going to be doing second and third reading today. It's on page, starts on page 19. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, bylaw 2207, the Realty and Education Tax Levy bylaw for 2022. It is an annual requirement that council pass this bylaw so that the tax rates that it is setting for the year are valid and and the city has authority to collect. The city's mill rate in this bylaw is set at a total of 14.1 mills. Recommendation is for council to give second and third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Siemens,
Motion to approve?
second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We dealt with the public hearing at the previous meeting, and we approved first reading so that we could go to public hearing, and we had the public hearing. And so I made the motion to approve, and that our mill rate is 14.1 mills. That is a 0.4 of a mill, which is generally to cover the cost of the additional R.C.M.P officer. And we did have a public hearing on it, so we've had our feedback on it. I think we should. So we had all the information at that time.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Hebert?
I agree with Councillor Siemens. He's said it well, and that's it. Yeah.
Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
No, sir.
Call for the question. All those in favor of second reading? Opposed? That is carried. Council will go directly into third reading. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Swagstra, second by Councillor Penner. Anything? Nothing? Nothing further?
Nothing further.
We'll go call for the question for third reading. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We have 9F. This is bylaw 2208-2022 Business Tax Levy. We're also doing the second and third reading on this one. It starts on page 23. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, members of council, this bylaw 2208 is the city's 2022 business tax levy. The bylaw proposes a rate of 0.5%, which is consistent with many previous years. And recommendation is that council give this bylaw second and third readings.
Thank you. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hebert? Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, we gave this approval at first reading, and we've had our public hearing, and so I think it makes sense to proceed. This is our standard business tax rate at 0.5%. We've had it this way for quite some time.
Okay.
Nothing further.
Nothing further? Anything further, council? Anything in closing?
No.
Yes, council, call for the question. All those in favor of second reading? Opposed, that is carried. We'll go directly into third reading. Looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Siemens.
No further comment.
No further comments? Anything further? We'll go call for the question. All in favor of third reading? Opposed, that is carried. At 9G, Bylaw 2209, this is the admin penalty that we're going for third reading today. This starts on page 26 of our package. Mr. Workentine, could you please introduce this file?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, the administrative penalty amending bylaw 2209 has been given first and second reading. The amendments were initiated as a result of some recent bylaw updates and new bylaws that were considered and approved by council. This amending bylaw will update the enforcement and fine amounts and also clarifies the city's authority to collect them. Recommendation is to give this bylaw third reading.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor.
Motion to approve.
Second by Penner. Councillor Penner, go ahead.
This bylaw already has been through first and second reading, and as indicated by our administration, it'll just give our bylaw employees the power to issue penalties, and it's obviously updating our penalties as well, so it's long overdue.
Anything further?
Nothing further.
Anything further of council? Anything closing?
Nothing in closing.
All those in favor of third reading? Opposed, that is carried. Okay, council, we got 9H. This is bylaw 2179. This is referring to Hampton Village. This is third reading. Starts on page 43. Mr. Workington, could you please introduce this file?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, bylaw 2179 was related to an application for a rezoning to rezone a parcel of land in the Hampton Village area development from DR1, which was Development Reserve 1, to RSF, Residential Single Family. And that was to permit the developer to create approximately 30 residential lots in that last phase of that development. Public hearing was held last summer, but just due to objections, it did trigger a municipal board public hearing, which was completed earlier this spring, with the municipal board having ruled and the board order indicating that City Council may proceed to consider bylaw 2179 for third reading. There were no conditions imposed by the board order. Therefore, recommendation from administration is bylaw that council give bylaw 2179 third reading, subject to the developer entering into a development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Workington. Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swayze.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make the motion for third reading.
Second by Councillor Penner. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the city manager had explained, this is for rezoning a parcel of land from development reserve to residential single family. This is the final phase of a multi-phase residential development in the Hampton Village area, and this is specifically for the creation of 30 single-family lots and as well as a public reserve. There had been some objections that were raised, and so there were sufficient objections to trigger a municipal board hearing, and that municipal board hearing has been held, and the decision is that the city is able to proceed with third reading, and so I think it makes sense for us to proceed with third reading, so that way the final phase of this development can proceed.
Thank you. Anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's always great to see that we're seeing more development, and now we have it on all sides of the city, east, south, northeast, south, and west. So this is great to see our city expanding in all directions.
Thank you. Anything further of council? Anything in closing?
Nope.
Council, call for the question. All those in favor of third reading? Opposed? That is carried. Council, we have 9I. This is major subdivisions, or minor subdivisions, sorry. These are subdivisions that our staff, that fall within a percentage that our staff can approve. We're just ratifying them by motion, looking for a motion to approve. Councillor Siemens, second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead, Councillor Siemens.
Very briefly, these are, we do allow our staff to make decisions on minor variation changes, and this is a report on those variations, on those decisions that we've allowed them to make and put in their jurisdiction. So not each one of them has to come to City Council on an individual basis.
Nothing further.
Anything further, Council? Anything in closing? Call for the question. All those in favor? That is carried. We've got 9J. This is minor variations. This is just like the subdivisions. These are just minor variations that our staff, that are within a percentage that our staff can take care of, that they don't have to come to us. So, Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Hebert?
I would move to approve.
Okay, second by Councillor Hebert. Go ahead.
So this is similar to the previous one. These are variances that the city people can move forward on, and I would approve that.
Council has the confidence of our administration and these people that make these decisions, so it's a good one.
Thank you. Anything further, Council? Call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Are there any questions of Council tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to correspondence and petitions. We've got 11A, Minister of Municipal Relations. This is referring to 2022-23 Building Sustainable Community Program on page 61. Council, how would you like to proceed? Take it as information. Okay. And we've got 11B. This is the Manitoba Environment, Climate and Parks. This is also correspondence from the province. How would you like to proceed? Take it as information. Okay, thank you. And Council?
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Just a point of information on that last piece of correspondence. The province has requested the city's input by May 30th, 2022, with respect to some of the proposed amendments. Given City Council's previous commentary and positions on the pesticide ban and some of the provisions, I just wanted to make Council aware that administration intends to provide comment before that deadline.
Okay, that's great. Okay, Council, we've got one item of other business. This is a letter from Cottonwood residents. It was in your bins today. The letter's very short. I will just, I'll read the letter and then we can discuss it. To Mayor, Council, and City Manager. This letter is coming from concerned citizens on Cottonwood Bend and Cottonwood Drive. We're asking for no parking from 8 to 5 o'clock during Monday to Friday due to cars squealing, racing, and parking unnecessarily and loitering. Thank you for your quick action. Frederick Hebert. So, Council, how would you like to proceed? Councillor Swagstra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would suggest that we have our administration take a look at this and provide us with recommendations. And I'm certainly open to considering this. I know that there have been problems in this area in the past, and if we take a look at this, and if it turns out that no parking zone there would help, I have no problem doing it. But I do want our staff to look at it first and make sure that we know what our options are.
Okay. I can agree to that. Councillor Swagstra, I know that we're having a advisory meeting with the R.C.M.P. tomorrow.
Yep.
Can I count on you to bring this letter so we can discuss it at that level as well?
Yep.
And then wait for our administration to give us a response. Mr. Workington, are you okay with taking this letter and giving us a response in an upcoming council meeting?
Yes, I will refer this to staff requesting some input, and then I will report back to council at a future date.
Okay, thank you very much. And council, we're in consensus with that?
We are.
Thank you, good. Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Hebert, second by Councillor Penner. Call for the question, all those in favor? That is carried. Next regular council meeting is Tuesday, June 7th, 2022 at 7.